Good morning.
Did you tell your daughter that she can't wear braids because that's cultural appropriation and that's not right?
Yes, I told her, Cedric.
Okay.
We're all good. Okay.
All right.
Good morning.
Did you tell your son that it's okay for him to drive down the street willy-nilly without any fear of being pulled over? Did you tell him that?
Of course, I told him he's got white privilege. Don't worry about it.
All right.
Good morning.
Did you know your kids? I need to know that there was racism a long time ago, and that's why they have an advantage that my children don't have. I hope you told them that.
I've let them all know, Cedric.
I'm just making sure.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Can I introduce us yet?
Sure. Go ahead.
Good morning, world.
I'm Cedric. I'm the black one.
You're not going to wish them a good morning?
Good morning.
I did everything you told me to do.
We're going to share a video with you today, especially for you white parents, so pay attention. This is specifically for you on what you should be telling your kids. I'm Cedric.
And I'm Brian, and this is Cedric and Brian.
All right, you guys, as you've been around long enough, we were just joking around with this stuff, but it's
You were?
Yeah, I was.
When we went over this last night, I sat all my kids
Do not
down.
listen to him. He's full of it. But it's laying the groundwork for the video we're going to show you today. But I do need to tell you this, whether you're a white parent or a black parent or parents in between.
But please mention Hispanic parents since my wife's Hispanic. She feels left out whenever we just talk about black and white.
Or if you're Latinx, sorry, if you're Hispanic parents, make sure not only are your kids prepared, but make sure you're prepared. Do you have enough food, water, and other essentials to get you through tough times? If not, check out My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's #1 preparedness company, and they've served millions of American families just like yours. Right now, you can save 25% off their popular 4-week emergency food kit, which will keep you well fed for 4 weeks worth of breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks, and snacks, totaling over 2,000 calories a day. This food stays fresh for up to 25 years in proper storage, so it will be there when you need it. In fact, you may need it a lot sooner than that.
So don't wait. Go to www.preparewithcedricandbrian.com. That's www.preparewithcedricandbrian.com.
All right.
You like my new shirt?
I love that. That's awesome.
We got it. I got it from one of our viewers.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Notice he almost said we, then he said I.
Little grunt style.
I like that. That's awesome. Got the flag on the right shoulder there, the flag in the back.
Yeah. It's good.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you
That's
very
awesome.
much for the gift.
That's very awesome. Brian showed this video to me yesterday, and I've said this before in previous videos. There was a time when we would share ideas with each other, and we'd be like, this can't be real.
No, what he really said, it's a damn shame.
It's a damn shame. But it is real. This is a video, and I don't know who produced it or who put it out, but it's a video entitled Dear White Parents. And I know we were talking earlier, Brian and I, about there was a show on Netflix called Dear White People.
Yeah.
Basically telling white people all what they've done wrong and things that they've gotten away with.
And then he made me shine his shoes after we watched that. It was ridiculous because they were sneakers.
It's my version of reparations.
Yeah, there's a whole white. Look at me. I'm throwing my white privilege out there. There's a whole website, actually. So I'll leave the link for those of you who want to see this. And let's get to the video. We will be stopping it. And because you'll see why. All right. Here we go.
Why the police officer, when he killed the black man, why didn't he go to jail?
Honestly, I don't know how to explain.
Okay, so I have a question right off the bat. My wife kind of brought this up. Not only is that lady not white, but she has an accent.
Right.
But then I remembered that basically even Cubans are white now, so maybe she's Cuban?
I don't know. To answer the young kid's question, I mean, I think the reason that the white police officer didn't go to jail is because the individual was acting a damn fool and they deserved a bullet in the ass. And whether they're black or white or whatever it is, I'm not going to bring up the Tony Temple story again because that gets pushed under the rug.
The reference he was talking about, he was knelt on just like George Floyd, and he died. But of course, that didn't make any news.
Yeah, the reason Michael Brown and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and scads of others, Jacob Blake, they didn't comply and they didn't obey the law. Just like anybody who wouldn't comply and obey the law, they would fall victim to the police.
We asked 4 white families, again, I just pointed out that that lady, I guess everybody who's not black is white now. So families to talk to their children about racism. So.
If white parents don't start having these conversations, I think things are going to get worse.
Why are the police treating people different? Can't they get in trouble for treating people differently?
White people haven't been having these conversations with their children because they don't have to.
Do you guys know what it means to have white privilege?
When you're not the target of the discrimination, it's not as visible to you, and that invisibility is a freedom.
What do you think it looks like to see somebody be racist?
Okay, now I think you were talking to the part where the dad was talking to his daughter and giving her a discussion about, do you know what it means for you to have white privilege? It's like, no, Dad. I mean, the acting is, the setting's everything. It's a dark room, the somber music. This is a serious, deep, heavy conversation that all you white parents should be, I can't even say it seriously, should be having with your kid. This is so stupid.
Even you non-white brown parents apparently need to have this discussion too.
Not the target of the discrimination, it's not as visible to you, and that invisibility is a freedom.
What do you think it looks like to see somebody be racist?
Wait a minute.
It's always looked like somebody.
She basically just said I'm invisible.
Well, yeah, you travel under the radar because you're not a person of color.
Yeah, but that could also be an insult. I'm just an invisible, nothing to society.
Well, I'm sure if you ask her, you're visible when it comes to climbing the corporate ladder and achieving success. You're invisible when you're the rules of society. You're invisible.
So you flip that around 150 years ago, and when slaves and then out of slavery, they weren't considered full people. They were just supposed to be invisible.
They were property.
That was an insult, but she can call me invisible for her thing.
And now you're learning.
Okay. See, this is why I have Cedric.
You think it looks like to see somebody be racist? It's always looked like somebody shouting the N-word and burning a cross, or do you see it in little places?
The talk is this conversation that black parents have with our black children to prepare them for, in essence, this racist world.
Lives matter too.
It's illegal to have a church.
Justice for him.
We're trying to arm our children, helping them to understand that when people treat you differently, this is why, and this is how we respond. Some white parents, I teach my child to treat everyone equally, to treat everyone fairly, and that's inadequate.
Stop.
It's not enough.
Stop. Hold up. Wait a minute.
Thought equity was everything.
Oh my God. That is terrible to say if you're not teaching your child to treat everyone equally, because that is totally contradictory to what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said was, we're going to judge people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. And you can go back even 1,000 years further, whether you believe it or not, Jesus Christ died for everyone, regardless of color, regardless of gender. But now this lady's telling everyone, nope, that's not true. That's not that. Everything you learned in the past is not applicable now.
When is Martin Luther King going to be removed from Washington, D.C.?
It's going to be soon.
And then Lincoln will be following it, right?
I mean, this little trivia question. If you go to the King Monument in Washington, D.C., he is called Dr. King. The Reverend is taken off.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, they don't want
that. Doesn't fit the narrative.
Play that again.
Some white parents, I teach my child to treat everyone equally, to treat everyone fairly, and that's inadequate. It is not enough. Children, whether you've taught them to be mean or not, are making sense of the world around them. What's beautiful and what's not, who gets to be a certain role and who doesn't. If we aren't the ones teaching them, then who or what is?
What is racism, and what do you think about it?
Stop right there.
Have you ever seen somebody treated unfairly?
Her question was, if you aren't teaching them, then who else is? That's applicable to all students, and I say this all the time. If you're not having a vested interest in what your child is learning and you're letting the TV do it or the radio or the kids at school, you're setting up, it's a recipe for disaster, is what it is. Because you need to sit down with your kids and teach them morals, ethics, and values. You can't depend on the school to do it. You can't depend on society to do it, because we see where our society is going, and you don't want your kids learning that.
If we aren't the ones teaching them, then who or what is?
What is racism, and what do you think about it?
Have you ever seen somebody treated unfairly because of the color of their skin?
The talk sounds like it's this one-off thing that you
I'm just
do.
gonna go back just real quick. I've seen when I was a kid, that age, especially junior high, I saw a lot of people treated unfairly. Mm-hmm. Rarely was it the color of their skin.
Right.
Kids pick on kids for anything. They pick on, I think that little girl was redhead. Redheads used to get picked on all the time. I mean, it's not just a racial thing. And again, it goes back to treating people fairness regardless of color. If you see it, call it out. And if you see it against and it has to be racial, call it out. But this lady makes it sound like all inequities are because of race.
Right.
Or all bullying is because of race. She's not living in the real world.
Yeah. And if there's
You're a teacher, you know.
There's assumptive language what she's saying about racism, because the assumptive language is that only other people can be racist toward people of color. I'm here to tell you, we've said this, if we've said it once, we've said it 100 times, racism goes both ways. It is not simply something that's done by people who are minorities. I've been around black people, people of color, who have said some very hateful things about white people, but then they say like, well, we can't be racist because we're not oppressed.
I hate hearing this. And growing up, an example I had, my mother, who was Jewish, back in the old days, you got on the phone in an apartment building and you had switchboard operators and people could hear other conversation, they would butt in. Well, my mom was talking to a boy who liked her. And people cut in on the line, and he goes, oh, that must be one of those dirty Jews, not knowing my mother was Jewish. So my mother didn't hire Jesse Jackson or the equivalent back then. She just simply said on the phone, well, I'm one of those dirty Jews. And she hung up on the guy. She handled it herself, and she knew that that was an individual who had an issue, not a society that had an issue.
Exactly.
And that's how she moved forward, and that's what she taught me.
Yeah.
And you say it all the time. It's not
what they call you. It's what you answer to.
Yeah.
So many things are rushing in my mind. I've never had the black conversation with my child about being pulled over by the police. Just like Brian has never had a different conversation with his son about being pulled over by police. I think our conversations were the same. Be respectful.
Have you ever seen somebody treated unfairly because of the color of their skin?
The talk sounds like it's this one-off thing that you do, but it's really a continuous conversation.
Do you remember why they were protesting?
No, I don't. What about you? Have you ever caused racial harm before?
It's really hard to hear, well, this is a hard conversation. I don't want to make my child sad. You don't want to make your child sad, and I don't want my child to die. These are not equivalents.
Do you remember the first time you...
We could stop every 10 seconds.
So
sad
to me, it's just
versus
sad.
Death. Yeah. This is about race baiters and poverty pimps, because there is so much money, and we said this on a recent video, there's so much money now in promoting this harmful rhetoric that there is racism, it's prevalent. And I will agree with one thing that she is saying, is that racism is taught. It's not so much learned as it is caught. It is caught by black parents, it's caught by white parents. Whoever you are and whatever you say in your household, your kids will pick up on that. And if you learn to love each other and speak highly of each other and edify people of different races, your kids will pick up on that. If you choose to be ignorant and you choose to be racism, your kids will pick up on that regardless of what color you are. And the thing that's really irritating that I'm noticing right now is that not only is it a money-making thing for like the Ibram X. Kendis and the Al Sharptons and things like that, it has kept a lot of people employed in higher education. Mm-hmm. There are complete schools of diversity training now and things for student unions and stuff, like come to the diversity workshop and come to this and you can echo your feelings and here's a pillow for you and a teddy bear for you and a candy bar and let's talk about how you feel in this white school.
Yeah. I mean, just watch one of our past episodes of the dean of students.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hard conversation. I don't want to make my child sad. You don't want to make your child sad, and I don't want my child to die. These are not equivalents.
Do you remember the first time you saw someone being treated unfairly because of race, or that you saw things that seemed not right to you?
You know, I just did not get it back then. And I had to go back and apologize and say, I was so ignorant to this. Like, I can't believe I said this. Everything I was saying was racist and I didn't even know it.
Talk to young children about what racism is, giving them the language to understand it.
Because slavery was legal at that point in time. So
they can be disruptors. They can shape and shift culture. I think.
Kid's quite the actor. Oops.
Kudos to that young man and his acting skills.
What?
And this is what CRT is all about. CRT is basically saying that we aren't teaching racism when we are. If that kid is surprised that racism existed at one time, something's not being taught in the school. And we know it existed, but what CRT is doing is telling that because Brian is white, he's automatically an oppressor, and because I'm black, I'm automatically oppressed. And that's the way it is when we came out of our mother's wombs, and that's the way it will always be.
Does that same kid know that there's millions of people being enslaved right now? Are you going to teach that young of a kid that there's sex trafficking going on right now? Are you going to teach him that there's organ harvesting? Probably not. He's not at that age. You're going to teach him to be a good person regardless of race. I know, regardless of what this lady said, you teach him to be a good person and that race doesn't matter. And I know they don't like to hear that, but that's what you need to teach them.
Right. A good friend of mine, Dennis, he watches our show. Dennis, if you're watching...
Dennis Prager watches it?
Not Dennis, hopefully soon. That's one of our goals for this year. If Dennis is watching right now, I can't believe we're friends because he's a Raider fan. But last year he goes, Cedric, I never disliked you because you're black. I dislike you because you're a beep. I can't use the word he used, but we're friends and we can talk on that level, and that's the way it should be. Yeah. You know, you don't like me because I'm black or because I'm not black. If I have the character and the character of someone you want to hang out with, then that's the way it should be.
Yeah, this lady is just the new modern day race hustler.
I'm sure she's getting paid. I wonder if she's getting paid for this video.
And to try and say that's not right.
You don't have to have all the answers, but that doesn't mean we can't start. It's time. It's time for us to talk about what happens to people with darker skin. It's time to talk about, what do you believe? What type of world do you want to create?
Stop.
Early and often, Cedric. It's the opposite of what
Dear White Parents Guide.
It's the opposite of what Morgan Freeman says.
Yeah.
Stop talking about it. And she's saying you need to talk about race 24/7. That's going to raise anti-racists.
Yeah.
Which that term is just so ridiculous.
Well, they had those two last lines just were complete contradiction to each other. She says, we can raise an anti-racist generation. How do we do that?
Keep talking about it.
We talk about racism all the time, every moment. You know, when you're walking out in the streets, when you're in the grocery stores, when you're at the park, talk about racism.
Here's the good news and the bad news. The good news is Dear White Parents subscribers is only 105.
Thank goodness.
Here's the bad news. Look at how many views there are. 24,878 views on that video. Raising to help with anti-racists.
Well, I hope people are seeing it like you and I and saying, yeah, this was an entertaining video, but it doesn't have any merit. It doesn't hold any water. It's full of crap. You know, it's a damn shame.
Damn shame. But here's I just noticed. Here's some other good news. Out of the 24,878 views, there's only 90 likes. And because now YouTube doesn't allow the dislike, we don't know how many dislikes there are.
They call that the Joe Biden rule.
And they've turned off the comments, so you can't comment on it. So if you have a good point and a good idea, you're going to open it up. Like Cedric and I, we open up comments, we open up the dislikes. I don't care. If you have a bad idea, kind of like the Joe Biden websites where they don't want you to see the dislikes or the comments, they turn them off. That tells you right now that you don't have an idea that's worth debating because you're not allowing a debate.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, people are seeing through this now, thank goodness. We just need more people on both sides of the aisle to see through this because unfortunately it does seem like a right-left thing, which it shouldn't be.
Yeah. During the middle of that video, they were talking to the children about how the police treat blacks differently and things like that. And we hear that rhetoric all the time, that blacks proportionally killed more by the cops than white people. We have some information here, some statistics that show nothing could be further from the truth. It starts back in 2017 and goes up to last year, 2021. And Brian, what do we have here?
So for one, the headline was that people are being shot by cops more than ever. Well, if you look at the top here, number one, whites are being shot more. And I know as a percentage of the population, they aren't. But again, what they leave out of here is the percentage of people that confront the police.
Right.
So you can't just go by the percentage of the population.
Yeah, people hate this statistic. Like, although blacks comprise 13% of the population, mainly 50% of the crimes are committed by blacks. Like Brian was saying, we commit crimes at a higher rate proportionally than whites and Hispanics and others.
But if you look at it, even in 2020, 457 whites were shot by cops and 241 blacks. If it's 50% causing the crimes, those are the people that are getting shot by cops, not innocently walking down the street as that lady would have you believe. So again, the numbers don't even bear it out. And then you look down, Hispanic, other, unknown, and it's funny how they don't put Asians on this, because I bet you their statistics are very, very low, because culturally they're taught to respect their elders, number one, and other people, number two, as a culture.
I know what I'm going to do. If I ever get pulled by the cops and they pull their gun, just put your hands up and say, I'm an other. Don't shoot.
Yeah.
Because your chances of getting shot are a lot less.
Yeah, only 28 if you're an other.
Whatever that is.
Yeah. So... Yeah, and an unknown.
You don't know what you are.
You're unknown race.
I haven't decided what I am. Don't shoot.
That's what my wife, I guess, is, because now she's confused because of the Hispanic lady who was in the video who's white. My wife's like, I guess I'm just white. Right.
I will agree with this woman on one point and one point only. I completely agree with her when she says it is up to you as parents. Talk to your children, not about racism, but just talk to them about what it means to be a good person and to treat all people, regardless of color, regardless of gender, with respect and dignity, and then things of that nature. Are they going to do that? No, because kids, we are sinful, we're by nature, but that's why you teach them. It becomes that they make a mistake, you pull them to the side, you teach them about it, and hopefully they improve. Is everyone going to be that way? No. And keep in mind, that's applicable to black kids as well as white kids. Some are just not going to get the lesson, and they're going to fail the final exam. But that doesn't stop you from teaching them the way they should behave with others.
And it's funny, because if you look at preschool age kids in a room with all the races, they just all play with each other. Mm-hmm. They're not racist at that age. They don't see color, and that's a beautiful thing. And for this lady to say that's not good enough, or that's not what we're looking for, you have to teach anti-racist, that's just...
I wish the dislikes were on that video, because I'm sure they would greatly outnumber the likes.
Out of 24,000, if there's only 90 likes, there's a ton of dislikes.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Okay, make sure you like, subscribe, ring that bell, and share our channel with everyone you know.
So we're back to you doing it, huh?
No, go ahead. You can say it too.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Whatever. I'll wave at the end.
Continue being good to each other regardless of what's going on in your life. Until next time, I'm Cedric.
And we'll see you later.